They're talking about valiant losses, but that was a real corker, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an encouraging performance against a really good team that, you know, some people are saying are, you know, up there with flag favouritism. So, and you know, at an oval where we haven't performed all that well in the past. So it was a big step in the right direction. A little bit frustrating not to get the points at the end because we played certainly well enough, but very encouraging nevertheless.
Does that effort against such a good team put you in good stead for coming up against Richmond at the MCG?
Well, it does if you can bring it again. That's the trick in AFL footy. It's bringing effort every week, and that's what's required, you know, for us to become a great club and a great team. Is that every week you've got to be able to come out and perform, come hell or high water, and even if you're not feeling that good or you've got a few injuries. So, you know, that's a good test for us this week, and I'm really confident that we'll bring the right amount of energy to play against the Tigers, and on our only sort of crack at a game at the MCG this week. So, you know, we want to give all our fans in Melbourne, there are plenty of them, the opportunity to come along and have a look at us and put on a good show for them and be really competitive.
I guess the true showing of you progressing is to knock one of these teams off, I guess.
Yeah, it always is. I mean, that's when you're a team in our position and we're progressing up the ladder and improving. It's all about scalps and you know, ticking boxes against teams that you haven't been able to do it against for a while, all that sort of stuff. We're aware of that, but you know, it's for us. We don't focus on the win; we focus on the process to get the win, and that's what we have to do against Richmond on the weekend.
So no beams last week, and Richmond not for a couple of weeks. I guess you relied on those guys a lot last year. What impressed you, I guess, when you reviewed the match, and why do you think you were able to push them so?
Yeah, it was the evenness of the team effort and the way the guys applied themselves to the plan that we had to play against Port Adelaide, and you know, we pretty much saw that through all game long. And when you get that, you're always in with a chance, regardless of how young your group is or how inexperienced it is. So you know, credit to our boys for doing that.
Just saw Fagan out there. Sorry, just saw the skipper out there. Is he'll be right this week?
Yeah, he trained on Tuesday, so the expectation is he'll be right to play. Yeah.
And what about Daniel? Is he close?
Daniel is not right for this week. Hopefully next. Yeah.
It seems to be, well, there was last year and then this year again, this real energy and enthusiasm and excitement around the place. And the guys seem to be having so much fun. You know, press conferences, they're laughing, they're smiling, really seem to be loving being here. But at the same time, I just spoke to Bundy when I was coming in, and you could tell that the loss hurt. That must be a great place to be in, where they're loving being here, but still it's that keen to do well that the losses hurt. Yeah,
it was interesting to be in our rooms after the game and even to look at the reaction of our players when the siren went on the weekend. I was actually really happy to see that disappointment, because what that said to me is they believe that they could win. Sometimes when you don't believe you can win, you don't get so upset about when you lose. But so for me, it was, and all of our coaches, it was great to see that. It hurt them. At the same time, you know, we treat all games that we play in as a learning experience, and we certainly learned a lot out of that game last week about the little 1% of things that can make a difference in close finishes, not just in the last 5 minutes, but also across the whole game. Just little brain phase, little concentration errors that can lead to the opposition to score. So we've tried to create that environment where it's just about learning and improving, and you know, encouraging effort and recognising improvement. And you know, I think that's why our guys enjoy coming here, and we'll keep going that way.
And where do you see Richmond as being vulnerable this week? You statistically, you're going fantastic. Clearances, I think you're number 2 or 3. You know, hit-outs, you're number 3. Tackles inside 50, number 4. Where do you see Richmond as being vulnerable? Where do you think you can get them?
I don't see Richmond as being vulnerable. I think we just have to match them in every area. I mean, the critical thing when you play the Tigers is they like to hunt the ball and they like to hunt you. Well, we have to be able to do the same thing and do it better than them, and then, you know, try and use the ball really well. So that's our challenge. You know, I won't be sitting up in front of our players and saying that that the Tigers have got weaknesses here and there. I mean, all teams have, but we just have to play our way well, and it all begins with the contest.
Do you think you started to strike a good balance last week? We've asked you before about your ball movement and how it sort of struggled a bit the first couple of weeks, but you seem to be getting that side of things going as well as you continue.
Yeah, there was some evidence of better ball movement last week. I mean, we had it in the first 2 games, but there was more of it last week. So, yeah, it's just I think a natural progression when you focus on one or two areas, something can always suffer. So it's all about bringing things back into balance, which we've been able to do.
Will you be getting the players to revel in such a big occasion or warning them of the dangers, or what's the mindset?
No, we always look forward to the challenge, and the boys always look forward to playing at the MCG. It's our only chance this year, so we want to make the most of it. There should be a decent crowd there. Plenty of Richmond supporters, obviously, but hopefully plenty of Lions supporters as well. So no, you know, every time we play, we look forward to the challenge, and that's our attitude. We've got to be fearless and keep going that way, because eventually that's what will take us to where we want to go to.
Sorry, Trish, you go.
I was going to say, a lot of talk about ruckman this week. They're having quite a big influence. Can you tell us how you think your ruckman's gone so far and where his strengths are?
Oh, look, Steph's had an outstanding year. He was brilliant in the game against the Saints. Fantastic last week, and him and Max Gawn had a real ding-dong battle when we played Melbourne. They played on each other all day long. Neither of them got much of the ball, but they competed really hard. So he's going particularly well. I think the ruckman, you know, my theory on that is that generally speaking they go better when they're the lone soldier. I think a few years ago when teams were playing two ruckmen, I think not many of the ruckmen were shining because they can't put their shoulder to the wheel, whereas I think with one now it encourages peak performance from them, and those guys are enjoying it. The trouble is it's not good for the blokes that are playing in the twos that are ruckman, because all teams are only playing one.
Probably where Steph's got an edge on a lot of ruckman too. Physically, he's a beast, but he's also, you know, fit. His endurance is high, so it's a real place you can take advantage. You saw it in the late stages of the game last week. Yeah, he's had a fantastic pre-season. He hasn't missed a beat. Done all the work. Probably the best preparation he's ever had. He's 30, I think. So, you know, hopefully he's got many years left in him. What about Dusty Martin? You go Nick Robertson again. It was fireworks last year. It was entertaining to watch. Nick acquitted himself really well. Dusty still had a great game, but it was sort of almost a coming of age for Nick. Do you send him to him again? Look, Richmond have got a lot of good players. It's really their system you have to beat rather than individual players. You know, it might be a contingency if Dusty starts cutting loose, but by and large it's going to be, you know, an overall team effort, our system versus theirs. And a great challenge for your backline this week. Richmond, as you say, love to hunt. They love it when the ball hits the deck. That mosquito fleet comes in and creates a lot of damage, and Hodgie's done such a great job of organising that defence, but it's a massive challenge this week with how quickly they pounce and how quickly they get it in there. Oh, it is. You know, our backs are going to have to be on their toes, but I'd like to think equally up in our forward line we can provide the same challenge and the same pressure. So, you know, if we can win the supply battle, maybe we can put a bit of pressure on them as well. I wanted to ask you just one more, just from a club point of view, and I'll be careful how I ask it, but we've seen an example this week, and I don't want to go into detail about that club, but of some questionable after hours sort of behaviour. And maybe more to come with that. What do you set up? We've got a really young team and young guys, and how do you set up the culture around, you know, curfews and how to behave when you're out in public, and how to interact with the public, whether it be men or women? What sort of systems have you got in place around that? Those standards are driven by our leadership group, basically. You know, we have a good chat about that in the pre-season, but they set the standards. We don't sort of strangle ourselves with rules. They're just certain parameters that we like to follow. There's probably a point in time in the night when it's time to go home, and they know when that is, and really the players look after that themselves. And I think, you know, in all the good clubs that I've been involved with, that's been the way it's rolled. Do you, when something like that happens somewhere else, do you just do a reset and a refresh with the guys, or do you trust that it's been in place and that trust is important? I think you're always watching your environment to see if how things are travelling, and certainly our leadership group are, and, you know, funnily enough, they're the first to alert me when maybe things are not what they should be. So, you know, that's how we monitor our behaviour. Really trust our group to self-monitor, I guess, and report in if something needs to be addressed.